inside that building as we speak right now. What an incredible sight you're seeing right now. You are seeing the result of two planes crashing into both towers of the World Trade Center, an apparent terrorist attack once again on this icon of a building.
And this is a shot that we just saw, the wide shot of Air 11 taking us down the Upper West Side, down the west side of Manhattan, all the way to Lower Manhattan. You can see the huge gaping holes. We also saw an ominous shot of the Empire State Building sort of looming in the background. And
it's amazing. This, by the way, we've been telling you this is 110 stories. These are actually the tallest buildings in New York City, the third tallest skyscrapers in the world. And there's an observation deck that you can see this at on the 107th floor. Obviously, that's a part of what looks to be damaged at this point. You're looking at live shots right now from Air 11. We're going to try to get to Melinda Murphy in a few minutes. She's got a bird's eye view.
And you can see the flames are still pouring
inside
out there.
The building. Amazing. And we do apparently assume that there are people in that building at this hour because there was no warning. One happened at 8 o'clock, right after 8 o'clock, and the second just after 9 o'clock.
Well, witnesses are reporting that the two explosions were about 18 minutes apart. The second explosion came after an aircraft crashed into the upper floors of one of the World Trade Center towers this morning. You know, black smoke was seen pouring as we see it pouring out right now, two gaping holes. It's right now not clear what caused the second explosion, though we did see that plane coming right into that tower. Yes. And that's video that you cannot... Oh.
It's just unfolding before your eyes. And, you know, you read about these things, you hear about them, but we actually saw this happen in front of us. And it's just astounding, amazing. And you're looking again, close-up shot. You can see inside the fire that is emerging from that building, from the inside of the building. Again, assuming that there are people in the building. It would be hard to evacuate with such little notice.
As you can see, the tops of the Twin Towers are absolutely obscured by smoke. Obviously, a hindrance for firefighters trying to get control and get access to the top floors to try and put this or try and get some sort of control over what's happening in the Twin Towers. Right. Thousands of pieces of what appeared to be office paper came drifting over Brooklyn, about 3 miles from the tower, according to one witness, Lynn. Now, this...
is happening again. Now, it's interesting because back in 1945, an Army Air Corps B-25, a twin-engine bomber, crashed into the 79th floor of the Empire State Building in dense fog. That apparently, obviously, an accident. This looks to be an attack. What can we say other than the fact that we saw two planes crash into both towers within what witnesses are saying
18
minutes of each other, and this is restricted air territory.
Since 1993, the NYPD, of course, has been heightening its terroristic combative methods, and how they've been heightened ever since.
But again, mostly on the ground, because if you go to the World Trade Center, you see the barricades, you see the increased police presence there. But there's little you can do when you're talking about the upper floors. Now, we're going to show you once again what happened here live in front of our eyes just after 9 o'clock this morning.
It's 9:13 right now. This was at 9:04 this morning.
Second plane coming in to the right of your screen.
It goes behind Tower 2, and watch this. Behind Tower 2, and it collides.
Incredibly explodes in Tower 1 right there. Fiery explosion, assuming there are people inside.
Since 1993, once again, we're going to go back to the World Trade Center bombing, a car bomb at the World Trade Center, killing 6 people. The NYPD, the terrorism squad, New York City police have definitely heightened their sense of security at landmark buildings throughout the city, from the World Trade Center to the Empire State Building to the UN. All of this is definitely...
Okay, we've got Melinda now, who's live for us. She's been taking these pictures. Melinda, tell us what you're looking at. Melinda, can you hear us? All right, we're going to go to Melinda in just a few minutes.
Good morning. You're looking
There
at
she
live
is.
pictures of the World Trade Center Tower 1 from Manhattan Lower District. As you can see, we have a very serious fire in the World Trade Center. What we understand, the information is still early in coming, but what we understand is that 2 separate planes have hit Tower 1, which is the tower that you're seeing on your picture right now. As you can see, there are flames. There is a massive fire here at this Tower 1 of the World Trade Center. It's in the upper portion of the building, probably the upper quarter of the tower. Now, of course, the problem with fighting something like this is that it is you can't do an external attack. Firefighters are going to have to go on the inside of this building to actually fight this particular fire. They're going to have to be using things like high-rise packs and standpipe packs. They're going to be setting up a command center here, and they'll be using a cascade system to refill their air bottles. Now, the air bottles only carry 30 to 45 minutes of air, so you can imagine what it's going to be like to try to attack this fire, because they're going to have to climb up this many stories to get to the actual fire, and then probably immediately have to turn around and get their air packs repacked. Now, what we understand is, again, 2 separate planes have hit this. We don't understand why at this point, but we do know that 2 planes, we're not sure what size planes they were, but we think they were substantial in size, have hit the World Trade Center. This, again, is Tower 1. We do not know exactly what happened as far as to why they have hit this, but you can see that there is a big plume of smoke which is towering into the air. I would say it goes back a couple of miles at this point, even further. You can certainly see it from almost anywhere in this area. Both towers have smoke coming out of them, so it is possible at this point that Tower 2 is also on fire. It's hard for us to tell at this vantage point. As you can well imagine, police are keeping us at distance from this so that they can do the work they need to do. What we recommend to you people who are watching this from Lower Manhattan is to please turn off your water. Do not use any water that you do not need. Do not use your dishwasher. Do not use your washing machine. Firefighters need all the water pressure they can gather at this point. It's also a very good idea to stay out of Lower Manhattan. Firefighters and other emergency equipment are trying to make their way there right now. And as you can imagine, this has probably already been made an all-hands emergency. That basically means that everybody, even if people are off of work right now, they have been called in to battle this blaze. Again, for those of you who are just joining us, you are looking at live pictures of the World Trade Center. That is Tower 1 on your screen right now. 2 separate planes have hit the World Trade Center. We are not certain why that has happened, but it has happened. You can see the flames through the smoke there, and there is a very dark, nauseous fume coming out of that. We can almost smell it from where we are, which is several miles away at this point. You can also see the plume of smoke from many, many miles away. Now, again, as we said, it's going to be very hard and very difficult to battle this blaze because it is in the upper portion of this tower. Tower 2 also has smoke coming out of it, and we, again, are not sure exactly what that is about. We'll, again, try to keep you up to date with this as we get more information, but what we do know is that 2 separate planes have hit the World Trade Centers. We do have firefighters on the scene. They are going to have to do an internal battle of this blaze. They cannot do anything from the external because it's so high. Makes it very difficult to vent a fire like this as well. It also makes it difficult to battle it because they're going to have to use high-rise packs, and they're also going to have to use bottles, air bottles, and the air bottles only carry a 30 to 45 minute supply. Then they have to go back to the cascade system to refill, so they're going to have to be bringing bottles up as they fight and as they battle this throughout the morning. So it will take some time to get this cleared. There will be obviously a lot of traffic in and around downtown Manhattan. It's a very good idea to stay out of the downtown area. Please do not use your water unless you have to. Firefighters need all the water that they can garner at this point. And again, as you can see, this is still an ongoing battle. I mean, we have major flame inside this building. You can imagine the heat of this. And of course, the World Trade Center is no stranger to fire and to other problems. There was the World Trade Center bombing several years ago. Firefighters do know the layout of this building, but it has been several years since this happened. So again, there will be some new firefighters on the scene of this. As you also remember, there was a B-52 which hit the B-25, correct that, B-25, which hit the Empire State Building many years ago after the war. And so this is the second building in Manhattan to have been hit by a plane. Again, we're not sure if both planes or one plane was hit. It looks like perhaps both towers are on fire. We're not sure exactly what happened here. But again, 2 separate planes have hit the World Trade Centers. There is a major fire battling right now. Firefighters are in there for a major fight. The stairwells, of course, are how people are going to be evacuated. People will be evacuated out of these buildings. Do not, if you're watching this from the World Trade Center, do not get on an elevator. It is not a good idea to use an elevator in the middle of a fire. Obviously, the water and other fire can short out the equipment, so you will have to walk down. The World Trade Centers, of course, are among the tallest buildings in the world, making this an even more complicated fire to battle. Fortunately, the good thing that we can say is that the firefighters in Manhattan are very, very talented when it comes to fighting high-rise fires. This is what they do best. They've been trained for it and trained for it and trained for it, and today is the day they're going to have to use that training. Again, for you who are just joining us, we are showing you live pictures of the World Trade Centers. As you can see, they are on fire. Both towers. The tower on the left is Tower 1. The tower on your right is Tower 2. We understand that 2 separate planes have hit the World Trade Centers. We are not sure if they if there was some kind of technical malfunction, if this was some type of other attack. We're not exactly sure what happened yet. We do know 2 separate planes. We feel that they are fairly substantial in size from initial reports. We do not know exactly what they were. But again, both towers are on fire. Tower 1 obviously suffering the biggest fire from what we can see at our vantage point. We are not able to move to a different point simply because the police have asked us to stay back so they can do the work that they need to do in this general area. They are setting up a general command center, or at least you would be expected for them to be able to do that, to be able to set up a general command center. Now then, high-rise packs are being used here. We have a cascade system, which is used to refill the air bottles. Air bottles carry to 30 to 45 minutes worth of air, as we just mentioned, and that's how they're going to have to use this because these fumes are very noxious. If you're somebody, again, watching from the World Trade Center, it's a good idea if you're in the middle of this fire to be sure and fill your door before you actually open it. If it is hot, it is better to leave the door closed than it is to open it and let the flame in. Also, it's better to hit the floor and not stand up. Smoke rises, and the smoke, of course, will go to the ceiling if you are watching this from the World Trade Center. Again, use the stairwell. Do not use the elevators. That is the worst thing that you can do. For those of you who are not in the World Trade Center and watching this down in Lower Manhattan, please turn off your water. Do not use any water you do not need. They will need all the water pressure they can possibly garner at this point. This is a tough place to battle. Obviously, if a jetliner hits or any type of plane hits an World Trade Center like this, there's going to be a lot of fuel on board possibly. That fuel is very difficult to put out, and of course all the other stuff inside the building itself, which is going to give quite a bit of fuel to this fire. Firefighters will probably issue an all-hands call. That means everybody who is available, including those who are off for the day, will be called in to battle this blaze. That is the highest of all alarms, higher than a general alarm, and that means firefighters from all over the area will be called to battle the blaze. Again, it will be an internal attack. They cannot do anything externally because of the height of this. It's the top portion of the World Trade Center, the very top portion of the World Trade Center. We have maybe, I would say it's probably the top 5th of the World Trade Center, Tower 1. And maybe the top half of World Trade Center 2. Again, we're not sure if both or one of the towers was hit by a plane, but we do know 2 separate planes hit the towers, and that has resulted in this battle of the blaze that we are watching right now. We do see flames in Tower 1. You can see it at the base of the smoke on the left, and we do know that there's some very serious fire which they're having to battle here today.
Okay, that was Melinda Murphy. You've been listening to Melinda Murphy live from Chopper 11. Over what you can see is a raging fire. 2 planes. Now, we just got this in. A senior government official speaking on condition of anonymity said that the FBI is now pursuing reports that one or both of the planes that crashed into the 2 towers of the World Trade Center were hijacked, and the crashes may have been the result of a suicide mission. And we should stress that these are preliminary reports, but the quote is from the FBI, it certainly does not look like an accident.
Now, the New York Star,
yes. Here's the plane. We're going to replay it. This is the second plane that crashed into Tower 1. This happened just after 9 o'clock this morning. The first plane crashed in 18 minutes before. Again, the FBI now reporting that there were planes, maybe one or more, hijacked. The crashes may have been the result of a suicide mission.
All right, we're going to go to a witness that's on the ground. His name is Jeremy Fox. Jeremy, can you tell us what you know, what you've seen since 9 o'clock this morning? Jeremy, you're on live.
Hello?
Jeremy, can you hear me? Yes, can you hear me?
This is Nicholas.
Hi, Nicholas. I'm sorry. Nicholas, you're on live, WB11 Morning News. Can you just tell us what you are seeing and witnessing, and where are you?
I'm in my house right now. I'm looking out the window. After the first explosion, I was just looking at the first tower, and I was just like, wow, I was staring at it for a few minutes. And then I seen this second airplane. It was kind of close up to the building, and it looked like it really did know which way it wanted to go, and it crashed into the second Twin Tower building and caused a massive explosion. And I was just like, it was just completely stunning. I'm still hearing like little explosions all around, like around my block, but I don't know what's really going on. But it was definitely a second airplane.
What kind of explosions are you hearing? Do you know?
Just little like dooms. I don't know, maybe that could be like results from the building, but...
Right. Nicholas, can you just tell us exactly where you're located? Obviously, you're not in... Where are you in the vicinity of the World Trade Center?
Well, I'm in the Lower East Side of Manhattan.
Lower East Side of Manhattan, and you heard this? Did you hear the plane flying low? Can you tell us?
Well, no, not really. After the first boom, I just heard the explosion.
All right,
I didn't really think nothing of it, and then I just went to the window and I just saw the plane coming, towards the building.
Nicholas, what's the reaction in your neighborhood? You're right there. You're very close to it. What are people saying? What are their reactions?
Well, a lot of people on the ground don't even seem to notice because, I don't know, I guess the buildings are hindering their view.
Yes.
But I guess from the result in the hallway, I heard a lot of doors slamming and a lot of people were speaking in Spanish and, screaming and everything. So I don't exactly know if everybody is informed. Right now, the channels, like Channel 11 isn't working on my TV, or none of the other channels are working, as a matter of fact.
And that's because a lot of the transmitters are off the World Trade Center, and that's part of the problem.
The communication.
But the communications, yeah.
I also see a lot of people on the roofs, like, looking at it now. A lot of people going to the roof.
Can you explain to us, when you saw that second plane come in, did you get a good look at it? Can you describe to us what the plane looked like?
Well, I was in the Air Force before, so I don't really exactly know what type of plane it was, but I know it was a black plane. It looked like a fighter jet.
It looked like a fighter jet.
It looked like a fighter jet. I'm not exactly sure.
Okay.
It was traveling extremely fast, so it definitely looked like it knew where it was going. It didn't look like it blew a thruster. It didn't look like, something happened, like a malfunction. It definitely looked like it knew where it wanted to go.
How large was that plane? Could you tell?
Wow, it was pretty big. And looking from my window, it's a pretty good distance. It's probably a good 30 miles away from the Twin Towers. What
went through your mind when you saw this going on?
Nothing, It was just like, wow. I can't believe I'm actually seeing this in New York City, So for this to actually happen, and it's still smoking.
Right. Now, we're showing you, as we talk to you, Nicholas, we're showing a shot now of the second plane circling around. And as we see it, it actually goes around the back of our view and seems to go through the building.
Yeah.
It actually goes through the building, and you can see the second attack on the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center.
Can you describe that second explosion? Because when we were watching it, it was absolutely breathtaking. Did you hear a boom?
Definitely. I heard a loud explosion. I seen the building crash in, and all I seen was like a big mushroom cloud of fire and debris and smoke just totally rise up, and it was just like in levels. You seen the windows explode going down one by one, kind of, and it was just kind of like amazing in a way, but it's very shocking to see. I mean, you don't expect this kind of thing to happen every day in the Lower East Side.
Absolutely not. Nowhere in New York or even in this country. I don't think we've witnessed
slow-moing this,
This
Lynn.
is a slow-mo shot of the second plane to hit Tower 1 of the World Trade Center.
I was watching news earlier about the spy plane that crashed. Do you think that's maybe has something to do with this, or maybe they're tied together?
It's unclear right now, but we slow-mo this, and it did look like it went through, or partially through.
Right.
All right, we're going to go to,
we have another caller right now. Well, actually, stay with us for a minute. Nicholas, can you stay with us for one more minute?
Sure, definitely.
All right. What are you seeing now in the aftermath from your view?
Well, from my view, the smoke is going left from my window. A lot more people on the roofs than before. I'm just seeing, well, from my window, I could see little chunks of debris coming down. I'm just seeing chaos. It's just unbelievable.
All right. Nicholas, thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
All right, Lynn, we're going to go to Pat Kelly with the Office of Emergency Management in Westchester. Pat?
Yes.
Can you tell us what is going on? What is the very latest that you're hearing, sir?
What we're doing in Westchester is we're mobilizing in Westchester because we're assuming we're going to be backfilling and assisting in New York City. So we're preparing all of our fire, EMS, and emergency management people. We're opening our EOC, and the county executive staying on top of what we may be doing to assist New York with this tragedy.
And we know that you work in situations like this. What's the first thing that you tell people?
situations like this, as much as you prepare, you can never prepare for something like this. I know the fire, the EMS, the emergency management people prepare for fires in large buildings, but something of this magnitude and something of this quick over such a large area, there's no real way to prepare. You just drop back onto what you've trained for. You go and you try to assist the people as best you can, and they're going to use up their resources real quickly. New York City's got a lot of resources, but an incident like this is going to tax it to the maximum, so they're going to be wanting assistance from most everyone they can. So that's why we in Westchester, the county executive, has ordered us to take and be prepared to go down and assist them.
All right, Pat, this is a huge building. We're talking about a building 101 stories.
110 stories.
110 stories high. Tell us what you think could be going on at this moment inside that building, what you think the situation is like since you deal with emergencies like this.
Yes, having worked in the fire service for 26 years and dealing with tall buildings, at best it's chaos. People that are on the fire floors, above the fire floors, are trying to get out. People are trying to get down. Fire departments are trying to get up to assist the people getting out and to mitigate the problem. Yet again, I'm sure in the back of their mind they're thinking, okay, is this the first wave of something that's going on? But they're going to go in and try to put the fire, or at least save as many people as they can, and then work on this. This is going to be a process that's going to go on for days. Buildings like this that have been on fire, they'll go on for days before they even get to getting them out. The biggest thing now is life safety and getting people out of that building that they can at the moment.
All right. Thank you, Patrick. We're going to change now, switch gears. We're going to go to President Bush, who has a statement at this moment.
May God bless the victims, their families, and America. Thank you very much.
All right, the president taking a moment of silence, obviously.
Obviously taking a moment of silence. He was in Sarasota, Florida. That's President Bush. He was reading to children in a classroom around 9:05 when his chief of staff, Andrew Card, whispered into his ear. Apparently, the president paused for a moment, was obviously very stunned.
Yeah, they say he was visibly shaken by it and said that he would talk about it later. I'm sure he's got to be prepped as to what happened. All of us just stunned by what happened just after 8 o'clock this morning. The Twin Towers of the World Trade Center apparently under attack by 2 airplanes.
Just to give you some background on the World Trade Center, the World Trade Center is a large complex of 5 buildings consisting of 2 110-story towers. Now, there are 2 10-story buildings on the concourse. The towers and the concourse were completed in 1973. Each tower is 1,350 feet tall. It is second in height only to the Chicago Sears Tower. We're talking about people who work in the building. Just to give you some idea, the World Trade Center complex has 240 elevators,
right.
Lynn.
That's right.
48 other elevators that are just for the control room. And, of course, what Melinda was saying, if you are in the building, you know, firefighters urge people to use the stairwell, not the elevators.
Do not
get
open
to the
windows.
ground.
Exactly.
Do not open the windows. It causes a funnel effect that just circulates the smoke into the building, making it just a tougher fight to get out. And that's what it is right now. It is a fight to get out of this building.
Absolutely.
For a lot of people.
You can only imagine the panic inside that building at this moment. Now, we're going to take you back. This is a picture, once again, of the second plane that just crashed through the first tower of the World Trade Center. We're going to replay that for you. Here it is, the plane coming in to the right of your screen. And it flies apparently through the back of the building and crashes all the way through. You're about to see it now. There it goes. And you can see it come out on the other side, at least the flames coming out on the other side.
In Washington, officials say the FBI was investigating reports of a plane hijacking before the crash. There were no immediate word on injuries or fatalities in the twin disaster, which happened shortly before 9 this morning. Then around 9:18, the second tower was struck by bombers. Obviously, according to Nicholas, one of the witnesses that we spoke to on the phone, it was loud. It came in low. After it hit, there was lots of debris that was falling on the ground. And there again, you're watching the plane.
And also, we just saw President Bush speaking. He called it, quote, an apparent terrorist attack on our country. And you're looking at that attack unfold before your very eyes.
You know, Lynn, we saw this happen back in 1993, and a lot of people who saw it happen for the first time, a lot of people who experienced it, never thought it would happen again, never we prepare for these things. We prepare for New York City, which to many is the center of the UN, for one.
Right.
We've got the Empire State Building. We've got the World Trade Center. We've got so many landmark buildings that are so pivotal to the United States. We have the Statue of Liberty. Liberty Island is just across the river there.
But this houses many government offices, and it also is a communication center. Many people broadcast from the World Trade Center. So this serves a point to a terrorist who would try to make a point, I would assume. This, again, the second apparent terrorist attack on the World Trade Center. The other one we've been talking about back in 1993. That was a shock to the world. This even more incredible. And you're looking now at pictures of those who were convicted in that attack.
Okay, we're going to go to Harvey Kushner, who's a terrorism expert. Harvey, can you talk to us about what's going on? Obviously, President Bush coming out and saying that, and the FBI saying that they do believe that this is some sort of terrorist attack.
Well, you know, when you have something as serious as this, people sometimes like to reserve judgment, but they must have some type of information which leads them to believe that this is, in fact, not an accident, but, you know, an act of terrorism. Because considering, if you look out your windows in the studio, if you can, look how clear it is. Look at the trade towers. One plane possibly going off track, but not two.
Yes.
So it seems from the scenario that people have witnessed and from, you know, probably intelligence gathering sources, that this is a, you know, viable possibility.
Dr. Kushner, you were involved in the first attack. You worked on...
I was not involved in
You worked on probably the aftermath of it, who was responsible. Tell us what you did do in that.
I was involved really in a civil litigation against the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey for not doing the due diligence on the ground, protecting the B2 level in the trade towers, allowing a truck in this case, to park with explosives. But this scenario, which is unfolding before our eyes here, you know, is something that I couldn't even have written. Nobody would have thought that this would have been possible. That if in fact it is a terrorist attack, that somebody would be able to take a plane. Supposedly one a jet and the other a smaller plane.
All right, we hate to cut you off,
Sure.
Dr. Kushner, but stay on the line, if you will. We understand there is another plane heading for the World Trade Center, and there is a report that they may attempt to shoot it down.
Gotcha.
Continue to watch. Stay on the line. Tell us what your thoughts are right now.
Got it.
Dr. Kushner, we also want to tell you all bridges and tunnels obviously closed at this point.
Right.
Obviously, this is a preemptive strike to secure what they can secure for the police department, the terrorism squad. The Office of Emergency Management, what do they do in situations like this when it is absolute chaos?
Well, we've played tabletop exercises. We've painted scenarios. We went through scenarios of these types of events happening with a biological weapon. But I know of none that has taken really seriously the possibility of attack by aircraft New York City. This was something that never was ruled out, but to be prepared for such a monumental occurrence is very difficult. Now, I could assure the people they shouldn't panic, those who are listening and heard the report, that if anybody is prepared for this type of a tragedy, New York City is indeed. And certainly, I would imagine, as we speak, the federal authorities, including the Air Force, the Army, are ready. And if in fact another plane is within the area of New York City, they're going to make a decision and to take the plane out.
Are you as stunned as most of us watching this at this point?
Well, yes, I am, because I could tell you, I've dabbled in the past with the thoughts of writing my memoirs or doing a novel, and I couldn't have come up with a doomsday scenario like this one. I mean, this is just off the page in terms of the planning that went into this, and just the nerve that somebody would have the temerity to take on the United States at the heart of the symbol of the United States is beyond belief. We've heard from time to time significant threats issued. Just the other day, the United States, the State Department issued a threat that Americans in Japan be aware of the possibility of an attack. But, nobody, I don't think anybody in the American government thought that, in fact, something like this could happen and would happen in New York City.
And you know, we're looking at these pictures and they're just amazing, but we're forgetting that there are probably people in these buildings, innocent victims.
Absolutely. When you think in terms of the emergency services that are going to have to deal with people at the level, you know, in terms of the trade tower, it's monumental. Then on top of that, you know, this is going to have a psychological effect on people living in New York City that is going to be beyond belief. You know, you're going to think of the shock that people who witness this firsthand will live in the area in the upcoming days. No matter how this turns out, if it turns out to be an act of terrorism, even worse. But even if it turns out to be an accident, the psyche of New Yorkers after September 11th, it'll never, ever be the same. And it's going to be very difficult to recover you know, normalcy after an event such as this. It's just, it goes beyond what we, you know, those of us who report in the media and yourself have seen or could conjure up. It's just, it's, you want to pinch yourself and say, is this really happening?
Right. Dr. Kushner, you said that you did have interaction with some of the victims of the last bombing, the families thereof,
right,
at the World Trade Center. What can you tell us? What do they go through? What did they experience at that time that some of the people today might be experiencing?
Oh, well, they went through post-traumatic shock syndrome. I mean, these people literally were at ground zero at the B2 level, and it just absolutely wrecked their lives. They were never the same after. It caused not only physical problems, but certainly mental problems, sleepless patterns, waking up in the middle of the night, revisiting what occurred. I was talking to a police officer at a Port Authority who was just catapulted across his office during the bombing. He was left physically damaged for life, but the psychological scars were just traumatic. I knew many people who worked in the trade towers who wouldn't go back in the building, who wouldn't go back into tall buildings after that. So you could imagine now with this that not only do you have an attack, the vulnerability from underground, which everybody understood, you could park a car, but now something falling out of the air, you know, this is just off the map.
Dr. Kushner, the AP is now reporting that the first plane may have been hijacked after takeoff from Boston. It's 9:42. For those of you who are joining us now and looking at this eerie and ominous sight of the two towers of the World Trade Center engulfed in smoke, black smoke billowing. This is not a joke. This is very real. What's happening here? Where do we go from this point? How do we recoup?
I think, you know, people, all of us stunned, shocked, and especially the latest information that just came over that Sukanya was telling you that apparently the first plane to hit the first tower was actually apparently hijacked from Boston.
And Dr. Kushner, I don't know if you saw that video of this.
I did see the video.
Did you see the video of the second?
I did.
Obviously flying low, obviously a big-sized plane that hit into the second tower. From your perspective, sir, does this look intentional?
Yes. You know, I have to say this without, you know, fanning the flames of hysteria. As I said to people this morning, if you look outside, it's a clear day. You could see forever. Those twin towers are just monumental. There's nothing of size near them. For a pilot to be that off in the airspace and to go into one of the towers the way that plane did, and the second one, has to indicate to me that it was more than just, you know, an error or an accident.
Well, the president actually was before our screens just a short time ago, and he said, quote, "This is an apparent terrorist attack on our country." So.
Well, you know, whenever you have a plane tragedy, certainly like TW-800 or others, immediately, you know, your federal authorities, your intelligence gathering authorities go to work instantaneously to try to deal with the situation. And certainly for the president to come out and say that as quickly as he did indicates to me that they have some reason to believe that this couldn't have happened statistically by chance, that this was a purposeful event.
Dr. Kushner, we don't want to disturb you, but we just got unconfirmed reports that there is a bomb at the Pentagon, and that a plane, unconfirmed reports, that a plane has hit the Pentagon as well, sir. In all respects...
Is that unconfirmed?
This is unconfirmed reports at this time. The AP is reporting this.
You know, I hate to say this on the air because I'll be part of it. But whenever you have a tragedy such as this, and especially one as monumental as this, you're going to get a lot of kooks out there, a lot of people who themselves are going to phone in all sorts of crazy stories. Let's just hope and pray, really, that this is not true, that it's unconfirmed and it's just a rumor.
Okay.
But you know, that would open us up to a war on various different fronts, and that might cause, you know, a monumental response on part of this country.
Of course, it's smart to err on the side of caution, but if this report were to be true, the AP again reporting that there was a bomb at the Pentagon and a plane has crashed into it.
Sir,
what would be your reaction to that?
My reaction would be that it's an open war. I mean, you know, literally, terrorists do these types of things, and they have the capabilities of doing them. But consider the targets, consider what's at stake. This would be something that the United States in modern times hasn't been visited with.
All right, we just got another word in that the West Wing of the White House has been evacuated, and that the airports, local airports, have been closed.
Along with bridges and tunnels, and of course the New York Stock Exchange. Basically, Lower Manhattan is being evacuated at this point, especially the area surrounding the World Trade Center.
I would imagine that our airport's going to be closed for the next couple of days.
Can you talk to us, how soon after the 1993 World Trade Center bombing did someone take responsibility?
They didn't take responsibility. You see, that's the misnomer. Oklahoma City, nobody took responsibility, and even the embassy bombings, no one took responsibility. In the trade, in the so-called lexicon of the terrorists today, we talk about let the target speak for itself, okay? Now, when you're talking in terms of the World Trade Center, that target has already talked.
All right. Dr. Kushner, we hate to cut you off right now. We're going to come back to you. Just stay on the line. We're going to move into Washington right now. We've been telling you there have been reports about the Pentagon, a bomb at the Pentagon, plane crashing there. Sonia Dienst is live for us right now. What can you tell us, Sonia?
Well, this story just keeps getting more unbelievable by the moment. We do have a live picture, I believe, of the Pentagon. It has been evacuated. We're hearing reports that there was either an explosion at the Pentagon or that a plane crashed into the Pentagon. Also, the White House has been evacuated and the old executive office building next door. I do not believe those buildings have been affected by any sort of explosion or crash, but as a precaution, those two buildings have been evacuated as well. And in addition, if you're seeing the Pentagon right now, there is a fire there. Here in Washington, we are waiting for a briefing by the FAA concerning the plane crashes at the Twin Towers building and also the Pentagon episode. We also understand that the FBI is looking into the Twin Towers plane crashes, possible hijacking there. We are also waiting for President Bush. He is expected to return to Washington. He was in Sarasota, Florida this morning reading to a bunch of school children. At one point, an aide leaned over, whispered something in his ear. He became very somber and said he would have a statement in a few moments. We do have that statement by President Bush for you right now, and here's what he said.
Today, we've had a national tragedy. Two airplanes have crashed into the World Trade Center in an apparent terrorist attack on our country. I have spoken to the Vice President, to the Governor of New York, to the Director of the FBI, and have ordered that the full resources of the federal government go to help the victims and their families, and to conduct a full-scale investigation to hunt down and to find those folks who committed this act. Terrorism against our nation will not stand. And now, if you join me in a moment of silence. May God bless the victims, their families, and America.
Okay, again, that was President Bush in Sarasota, Florida, about 30 minutes ago. He is headed back to Washington. And just to recap, we've got about 3 events going on right here in the Washington area. At the Pentagon, an explosion or possibly a plane crash there. There's a fire going on. The Pentagon has been evacuated. The White House has been evacuated. And apparently the old executive office building, which is right next door to the White House, that building also has been evacuated. We are about 2 blocks from the White House and the OEOB. We're hearing sirens here, not seeing any smoke or any kind of general chaos, but you can certainly tell something's going on here in downtown Washington. Back to you.
Before what was happening in the Pentagon, how soon after, my question is, how soon after what happened at the World Trade Center did something happen in the Washington, D.C. area? Can you give us some sort of time frame?
I'm going to estimate about 30 minutes after that second plane crashed into the Twin Towers building that we started getting reports that there was a fire at the Pentagon. The Pentagon story has just started developing, so we're still getting details on what exactly happened there, but we do know that that fire is still going on, roughly, again, maybe a 30-minute time period between what happened in New York and what happened here.
All right, Sonia, you are on the streets right now of Washington. What is the mood like there?
Well, maybe my cameraman can pan over. We're starting to hear a lot of sirens. We're starting to see people down the street from us standing outside an office building. We're not sure why. We're not sure if that building has been evacuated, but the level of energy is certainly starting to pick up here as we're hearing reports again of these buildings being evacuated in the downtown area.
All right. Any other buildings that you know of being evacuated right now other than government buildings?
At this point, just the White House, the old executive office building, those are precautionary measures, and then again, the Pentagon.
All right, thank you so much. We'll check in with you a little bit later.
An Associated Press reporter says the tail end of a large airliner plunged into the building. He says the smoke was billowing out of the Pentagon.
And we just want to reiterate that the AP was reporting earlier that there was a plane that was hijacked from Boston Airport. I'm presuming it's Logan Airport up there. That was the first plane to crash into the first tower of the World Trade Center, and that happened after 8 o'clock. 18 minutes later, a second plane came in to the first tower of the World Trade Center from behind, crashing through it. We can only imagine how many people were in the building at the time. No word on any casualties at this point. We haven't even begun to see the reaction from the ground. You're looking at what's happened. Again, an apparent terrorist attack, and that is what the president at this point is calling it on our country.
Lynn, as a result, all aircrafts nationwide as well have been called off. All aircrafts, no takeoffs or landings nationwide at all airports. All bridges and tunnels are closed. This is a live shot of Washington. I'm sorry, this is a tape of Washington. Reports of
an explosion of some sort at the Pentagon.
Some sort.
They're not sure whether it was another plane or actually a bomb, but they are investigating that at this point.
The Associated Press was reporting that a tail end of a large airline had plunged into that building. Right. And, of course, the West Wing has also been evacuated. We're once again back live looking at this ominous and eerie shot of the World Trade Center. 2 planes hit the 2 towers. The first plane shortly before 9. The second plane shortly, I believe, 18 minutes after, if we are correct. As a result, all bridges and tunnels are closed. All aircrafts nationwide landing.
Here it is. Here's the second plane that went into that trade tower. If you're just joining us, second plane going into the first tower of the World Trade Center, crashing through it. You can see the fiery explosion that resulted from that. And again, countless people, obviously, in this building, in the other building as well. At this hour, we have no idea how many people have been evacuated, how many people still trapped in that building at this point.
And you can see smoke pouring out of the gaping holes of the upper floors of the World Trade Center. Reports that a plane had struck the 110-story building. Just to give you an idea, 2 towers, 110 stories, countless people. 1993 was the last time the World Trade Center
came under attack.
Under attack like this. We're trying to get reports from the ground. We're trying to get reports of any casualties, if there are any. At this time, it's uncertain. We spoke to several witnesses, and they do report seeing and hearing a low-flying plane that came in and hit that second tower that we witnessed. We were on the air for minutes.
It was an unbelievable sight.
My reaction was, I couldn't believe what I was watching. And I think a lot of people who are tuning in and are listening to us are not believing what they're
actually seeing. But you are seeing this country, as the president said, under attack, apparently. We are being told that the State Department is evacuating this building as well, if we got that information correct.
We're also being told that President Bush will be briefing the nation as soon as he is briefed. Yes, he's in Sarasota, Florida, where he was speaking to children.
And we just saw Sonia Diener live for us in Washington, where the Pentagon has come under fire. The Pentagon, apparently a plane, if you can show us that shot again, a plane crashing into, or a part of a plane crashing into the Pentagon. Obviously that has been evacuated as well as the West Wing of the White House and another building nearby.
Lynn, it's 9:55. We've been on the air since, I would say, 5 minutes after 9, around 9 o'clock, and it's been a harrowing experience for us, just kind of watching this and hearing reports, and first seeing the first tower on fire. Now you're looking at the shot of Washington, D.C., part of the Pentagon as well, upper level on fire as well.
We're also reporting that we're hearing reports that LaGuardia is being evacuated, including the tower there. The Pentagon. The Pentagon you're looking at in the background right there, again, and the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center. Both of these historic buildings under attack, being called terrorist attacks, obviously.
And obviously you want to notice that smoke billowing in the Washington, D.C. shot was the Pentagon in the background.
That's
in the background. That's why it wasn't very apparent exactly what it was.
Okay. Now, we've had Melinda Murphy over this site for part of the broadcast, and unfortunately, the choppers are going to have to come down because LaGuardia has been evacuated, and the tower there cannot communicate. Another problem, and when you think about where a terrorist would attack, pick the site that obviously would cause the most problems, because there are many communications points in this building, many government offices in this building, and unfortunately many innocent victims in this building. 110 floors of the building, 2 towers. You can only imagine how many people are in the building trying to get out of the building. We'll never be able to get out of the building at this point.
Well, Lynn, Dr. Kushner, a terrorism expert who we were talking to, was saying that the World Trade Center is sort of the heart and symbol of the United States.
Along with the Pentagon. And you have to, this was obviously no accident that the two things happened side by side, if you will, within a few minutes or maybe a half-hour span.
We're also hearing now that they're evacuating Kennedy Airport as we speak.
And all of the airports, we're told, in the areas have been shut down. And one of the reasons might be because we were told, AP first reported, that the first plane that hit the World Trade Center was a hijacked plane coming out of Boston. So you can only imagine, the casualties in that alone. It's just mind-boggling.
There are still no word on injuries or fatalities, but you could just imagine if we could see the ground, what it would look like.
And we should say that our crews are not able to get too close to this site for precautionary reasons. The police obviously keeping people as far away from it as possible, trying frantically, I'm sure, to get as many people out of the building as they possibly can at this moment.
Well, just a question, if we could on air, is there a possibility to switch to other bridges and tunnels to see if roadways are at a standstill, which I'm assuming that they are since everything has been closed and come to a standstill. So obviously there is going to be some backlog on the roadways as New York City and the United States takes precaution, closing all bridges and tunnels, as well as airports, as an evacuation occurs.
Penn Station also closed. I would imagine any kind of transportation site at this point in jeopardy, people being asked not to go to public places like that. We have no idea, really,
and it's also
what the extent of this is going to be. We're looking at the first part of it, and hopefully it will not progress from here, but one never assumed that we would see what we're seeing now, so we have no idea really what might happen next.
And if we can aid those who are trying to get control of this situation, if you are at home and if you're watching this, if you can stay at home, please do. We are...
Okay, you're looking at another explosion right here. This is another explosion.
Part of the tower coming down?
Part of the Twin Tower, obviously folding.
Coming crashing down. We're watching a live...
It is right.
We're watching a live picture of this. What?
It's live. You're looking at this live. You're looking at another explosion right in the same area. Oh my. Another explosion.
It's hard to tell.
That is a live picture right now. We don't know exactly what has exploded.
It looks like a building
part
collapse.
Of the building collapsed.
But it's unclear right now, Lynn, if that is the second tower.
No,
is that the
second? Both towers are standing. This is another building in the area.
It's unclear right now. Both towers are standing right now because of the smoke.
The first tower has collapsed. That's what happened.
The first tower has
collapsed. There you have it. Unbelievable. Who would have ever thought we would have witnessed something like this? And the pictures speak for themselves.
Oh, you are looking at a live shot of downtown.
You are looking at devastation of downtown New York. Again, this all started just after 8 o'clock. We don't know how many people were in that tower. We don't know how many people were in both towers. You are looking at the complete wreck of this landmark building.
Speechless. Speechless.
All right, we're going to try to show you this again. Just events unfolding that you could never imagine in your worst nightmare. Beginning right after 8 o'clock this morning here in New York with the World Trade Center. Tower 1 collapsing from a plane that the FBI is now saying may have come from a hijacked plane out of Boston. Shortly after that, a second plane crashing into the first tower of the World Trade Center. Now you can see just minutes ago, the first tower collapsed completely. It looks to be demolished.
That is a 110-story building that collapsed to the ground. And we're going to
show it to you
this
one more time. This is what you just saw if you were watching just a few minutes ago. And if you're just joining us, the first tower of the landmark World Trade Center no longer. This is what it's become.
We're slow-moing this, so obviously you can see it's sort of imploding. If I can say that it is imploding,
yes.
It is imploding and coming to the ground 110 stories.
In front of our eyes.
Obviously, our thoughts are that...
With the people who may have been inside at the time this happened, and how and who and why.
Absolute devastation. You're looking at a live picture of Lower Manhattan here.
The landscape just completely
vanished.
Gone. Oh. And what a beautiful, clear, incredible day this started out as. And it has turned into a day of just complete devastation.
And of course, Lynn, a lot of people living in the surrounding boroughs, I'm sure because it is such a clear day, can stand outside
and see it
and see what's unfolding before our very eyes as the two of us are watching this.
And everyone with us here in the studio, it's just incredulous because no one would imagine that this could happen anywhere, let alone here in New York City. We're also being told that, again, at this point, most public places of transportation have been shut down. All airports shut down. Penn Station shut down.
Also, other government institutions, including the Treasury and the State Department, are being evacuated in Washington, D.C. Paul Begla, according to the AP, a Democratic consultant, said he witnessed an explosion near the Pentagon. He described it as a huge fireball, a huge orange fireball. He said another witness told him that a helicopter exploded. We are going to go once again
to the explosion that just occurred. And this, again, is the first tower of the World Trade Center, Twin Towers. It's folding before your eyes.
We first reported to you that there were reports of a first plane that may have been hijacked from Boston. Now we're hearing that that second plane may have. These are reports now. This is unconfirmed, that this report is saying that the second plane may have come from Newark Airport. And as a result of that second plane, there was sort of a wow, look at that close-up shot to the utter chaos that is kind of on the ground here.
Unbelievable. Then that's the first shot we've been able to get close to the scene on the ground. You can see complete chaos. We've got right now Jeremy Fox on the line. He is an eyewitness. He lives in the vicinity. Jeremy, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Tell me what you're seeing right now.
Everything is white outside my window. What happened, I saw the second building blow, and it just crumbled down, and I saw the core of the building slowly crush to the ground, fall to the ground. Out my window now, I can see nothing. Everything is white. What I saw before was people running in front of the hospital, running all over on the streets, running away from the west side, because I live on the east side, close to the FDR. Everything outside is pure white. You can't see a thing. I live across the yard from me, about 100 yards, is another building. I can't see 2 feet in front of me. I had to close my windows because it's so smoky down here.
What are the people around you saying? What's the reaction around you in that neighborhood?
Pure horror, it seems like. It seems like people are running away for their lives, like they don't know what's going on. Pure confusion. I myself, I don't know. I live so close. I'm like, I can't imagine what just happened. I'm like,
where do you live, Jeremy, for the folks who are just tuning in?
I live on Gold Street, right across from the Beekman Hospital, where they're taking all the patients.
Jeremy,
I saw them bring a lot of patients in before.
Jeremy, obviously, can you please tell us, I mean, we were watching the tower go down. Can you please describe to us, on the ground, what did that look like?
I'm not on the ground. I'm on the 26th floor of a building across the way. Right now, you can see nothing outside. When it went off, the second building, you saw an explosion, and then you just saw a humongous cloud of smoke go up, and you saw the building start to fall down, and then you saw the core of the building just start to disintegrate into itself. There's ashes on my terrace everywhere. You can't see a thing. The smell is horrible. I smell smoke everywhere.
Did it look like an implosion that internally, was it that when the plane crashed, I mean, was there another explosion inside that vicinity of that area, almost like a... we're speculating here, possibly a bomb?
I couldn't. The second building, both buildings were just burning, and like they're constantly burning. And then right below the left building, the one without the news tower, the satellite tower, it just looked like an explosion below where it was burning, and then it just came down.
All right, Jeremy, you were telling us before that you saw the ambulances going to the hospital. Describe what that was like.
It was horrific. There were men in, they had beds lined up outside the emergency room waiting for patients. They were bringing them in cars, not in ambulances anymore, as well as ambulances. There were people coming in on stretchers. They just looked, shaken and horrible. I mean, I'm on the 26th floor, and I looked at it. Now you cannot see 2 inches in front of your face if you're on the street right now. People downstairs must be in pure havoc. I mean, you can't see anything outside.
Jeremy, you must be fearing for your own life at this point. You're so close to it.
I'm very nervous. I'm not happy about, this at all. I'm scared for everyone around and involved. I can't imagine what the destruction that just caused for people. I'm very nervous. Everyone in my family, as you can hear, my phone is ringing, is calling to make sure I'm okay. I'm scared as could be.
You were reporting also that you're not able to get any broadcast. Is that right?
No, I'm getting your broadcast right now. I'm getting the only channel that's not coming in is Channel 9. Every other channel is coming in. You're coming in on WB11, and you can see the smoke, and the right building is still burning.
Jeremy, what's the first thing you saw earlier?
The first thing I heard was I felt a boom next to my window, and that woke me up and got me out of bed. And I heard ambulances and cars coming, and I went to look out my window, and I was watching and I was on the phone with one of your news staff reporters as the smoke is starting to clear. I'll walk out on my terrace. Hold on. Oh my God, there's debris everywhere. It's horrible. You can't see. There's white powder everywhere, on my terrace, on the ground, everywhere. This is like a war zone, I assume. I've never seen anything like this in my life.
Is it tough for you even to breathe?
Now it is. I'm going back into my apartment.
All right.
Then I was watching, and as I was watching, the plane must have come from the other side because I saw the second building blow. I saw it looked more like an outward explosion because the plane came from the other side, and I saw that pure explosion and took pictures of it. Now there's another.
What was going through your mind while you were doing all of this, Jeremy?
The horror that people are going through right now, the families that are losing people right now, and there's another plane. No, that's there's a helicopter. The horror that families are going through, that people are going through right now, the confusion, that people don't understand what's going on right now. I don't understand what's going on right now. The insecurity that I feel right now, and that I'm not around my loved ones right now, and how horrible for people who work in the World Trade Center and who have family in the World Trade Center. And I pray to God that they evacuated that building in time to get rid of all those to get those people and save lives. And the massive damage that building falling down must have done to everyone.
I think we're all feeling the same emotions at this point. We're being joined now by Jim Watkins from the Channel 11 News at 10. Jim, were you watching this at home? Was this a shock to you as well when you first got up?
Well, there's a sense that my wife came and woke me up and told me that we were getting a call from our news director saying, this has happened, you must go in. And there's a sense that I'm sure everybody is experiencing, whether they were asleep or whether they were awake when they first